Hello.
So sultry.
Well, that's what you get when you lose your voice from having too many Zoom meetings in 1 week.
You're like Phoebe from Friends when she has the sexy voice after she loses her voice. Do you remember that?
You know what's crazy? No, I don't, because I've never seen it. I've never seen it like
Never
from
seen Friends?
I've seen like an episode or, a couple, but I've never seen it.
I watched the whole thing through like a couple of years ago for the first time, so.
I guess I know
I've
what I'm
seen it
doing
all,
on
but
our
I think
break.
I'm like a decade older than you guys, so that would make sense.
Are you sure?
You don't look
You
it.
look
Well,
hot.
thank you. Well, I
Yeah.
just turned 42 in October.
No.
True story.
Wow.
I don't think you did. I think
You
did your
look
math wrong.
I don't think
hot.
I did either. That's what my birth certificate says.
32 is what you meant. Anyway, why don't you say who you are now that everyone knows your age?
Yeah, that was not a good thing.
Yeah, that's how we start off with everybody. Age, ASL.
I'm Dawn Nicole, and I'm a hand lettering artist and illustrator and author.
Oh, concise. I love it.
Yeah.
Clear, concise. That's great.
I feel like I'm jealous because most people are like,
well, that's why it threw me off.
Yeah. You were like, whoa, oh my God, she knows what she's doing.
I mean, it's one of those like social media things, like you see the end result, but it took me over a decade to get here, right?
Yeah. This morning, someone asked me what I did, and I did that internal debate where I was like, based on the situation I'm in,
oh yeah,
how much information should I give?
Mm-hmm.
And what questions will there be? I think I said I'm an artist or a designer. I said second book. I say second.
Yeah, you just leave that one out.
I leave a couple.
You always do that.
Because it's like one was like actually written and reads like a book. The others are like gift products.
It's so funny all the caveats we put on ourselves.
Yeah, we do. We put so many. Then she was like, what do you mean you do art? And I was like, graphic design. I just was like, based on the situation, I was like, what do I want to...
Yeah, how much do I want to interact right now? How much do I want to have to talk?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the situation did not really call for me opening my mouth and talk. I was about to get into an MRI machine. So, you gotta be quick.
That's not the prime time.
We weren't getting coffee.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're really excited to have you on and talk about, actually, we're going to talk about books and everyone can enjoy my half of a voice. Was it you, Katie, that made fun of it this morning?
No.
Someone was like, you sound
We didn't even
awful.
talk this morning, did we?
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
So we're going to talk all about books because, Dawn, this is like, you've worked on so many book projects and you have one coming out tomorrow, basically.
Yeah, it got delayed a little bit, but we're literally weeks out now, so I'm excited.
That's amazing.
It's such a long process.
It's so long. How long have you been done with the book and now just like twiddling your thumbs waiting for it to come out?
I signed the contract like a year and a half ago. I've been done since early spring. I mean, I've had some meetings with like my designer and editor during that time. And, a few things we changed along the way. But for all intents and purposes, I've been done for a long time.
That's crazy. So you said you have a designer who worked on it. So you're a hand lettering artist. So can you talk a little bit about the role before we even get into it? Can you talk a little bit about the role of working with a designer? Because we also have a designer we're going to be working with, and we've never let someone else design for us, I don't think. Have we, Katie?
They're going to touch our babies.
I know. It's so weird. So can you talk a little bit about what that process was?
You will love what I'm going to tell you then, because this was the, I think, third publisher that I've worked with. This is the first time I've had a designer and an editor in this whole like team of people. And it has been hands down my best experience so far. They took everything I made and made it extra pretty and extra beautiful. And the designer, essentially, her job is to take all the material and make it into a book format, make it pretty, add the little borders. The editor makes some of the text sound a little better. So I couldn't be happier with how it went this time around. I'm working with a smaller publisher than I did the last few times. So I would 100% recommend it. It's like having this whole little dream team. And I would do it again the same way exactly this time. It's just been the best experience by far to date.
That's encouraging.
So it is. And it's interesting that you said you're working with a smaller publisher, because I was going to ask you, is it because you're working with a bigger publisher?
I mean, they're a division of a huge publisher, but I don't even know if indie is the right word. They're more a boutique. A lot of the smaller publishers are owned by an overarching brand that you're very familiar with. But when you work with the smaller ones, you're working directly with the person at the top. You're Zooming directly with your editor. Mine happens to live in Paris, so that was kind of fun. And then the book designer, I think, is somewhere in the South. So like everybody's spread out, but you're actually talking to the people who make the decisions, which I feel like let me have a lot more say in the finished project. I didn't get that the other 2 times. It was just kind of like turn in everything. You'll see it again when it's on shelves. So I had a lot more control and collaboration this time, which I loved.
That's so interesting. We just started working on our second book, but my first book was with a small publisher. And I did have that same experience where I worked hand in hand with the designer, where like I could basically lean on them and say, because I'm a graphic designer. So I was like, I want to do this part. And so I could say to them, do you think this looks better or this way? And they were able to maybe even throw in a third option. I'm on the phone one day with the owner saying, what do you think of this? Do you think this is more sellable? Do you think this? And then the editor was like my partner in crime, basically helping everything just sound better. And if anyone's ever read something good that Katie and I have put out there, it's gone through Katie, basically. Because Katie's like, well, you're really good at proofing. No, like you're really good at proofing, and I'm not.
I give it the old spit shine.
You too.
But if you weren't around, I might just stare at the page all day and not put anything down.
Yeah, it's a yin and a yang, but still having someone to read over what you've done instead of just saying like, here, take it and run with it is a 10 out of 10.
100%.
Yeah.
So for the design process, because this is the first time I'm working with a designer and the first time I'm working with a publisher. I've self-published books, but this is my first time around with a publisher. And the part that's a little bit intimidating to me is like trying to figure out how the book is going to flow, like in terms of layout, like what's going to be on what page and how much is going to be over here. And so can you talk a little bit about that process for you and maybe what that was like balancing that with another designer too? That's something that I feel like people don't talk about very much.
Yeah, that is something people don't talk about. And I feel like my publisher had such a good process outline that it never stressed me out, which is miraculous because I easily get stressed out, not outwardly, but because I want to make sure it's good. And so even though she reached out to me, I had to submit an outline, and it's a pretty detailed outline. And they actually didn't kick anything back from my outline. So that was awesome. She said she usually kicks things back. So then what the publisher did is take my outline and put it into what you call a book map. And that was simply just kind of like on Illustrator. We decided how many pages. We kind of did some market research. What do books like this? How many pages do they have? So they kind of laid out all 208 pages we decided on. And there was just one line on each page. Like, this is the title page. This is the intro. This is where you're going to teach the basics. So then we all 4 worked off that book map the whole time. And there was flexibility if we needed to change it. But for the most part, it didn't change too much. So I think being super organized on the front end just makes the whole process run more seamlessly.
Yeah, that's really helpful for people to hear and for me to hear too. Wait, so far we've started diving into the manuscript and we're kind of just like seeing what words come out and like how many of them. And then I think we're going to form that into something. But yeah, it's interesting to kind of hear the different ways to go about it.
You just said we're going to form those things into something. Yeah, we are. It's
yeah.
going to be a book.
Well, we haven't we have an outline, but we don't have a book map just yet, but that's definitely in the plans. But I feel like we're just kind of writing the first chapters to see like length and vibe, and then we can maybe make our book map from there. But I don't know. I'm learning as I'm going.
I think one of the differences is, and we should talk about this so people understand, because I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, I want to write a book. Tell me more. So one of the differences is that we pitched this book. It wasn't written. It was just this concept. And so we got the concept to a point where we could explain it to someone and say, this is what it's going to be about. And they would have an outline understanding of what the chapters would be made up of, but they didn't have a full chapter necessarily. Whereas like if you're writing a picture book, you're going to have the whole story written. But then your book is like a workbook, tutorial, fun, lots of interactive elements. And ours is actually more text than, it's a mix, but it's more, I think probably at the end of the day, I don't know, maybe like 60-40 or 70-30. What do you think, Katie?
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another part is like, we've had people reach out to us like you said they did with you, Dawn, where they're like, hey, we'd like you to do a book, this series of draw this in your style or something. And they're like, we would want you to do 10 illustrations and then break them down. And so they're looking at your style saying, this would be cool to see. Can you talk about that process of, you said they reached out to you and they were like, hey, would you be open to doing this? Can you talk about what that was like? Like, did they just show up in your DMs? What do you think led to them finding you? And what was the initial ask?
So all 3 times I've worked with a publisher, they came to me. And I think early on, that was just because Pinterest was so popular. Like, it was almost 7-8 years ago. And I just feel like my timing was good. They were looking for people doing it. There weren't a lot of lettering artists at the time. So they were just intent on like hopping on that trend, which in some ways was a bad thing because I'm not in love with the outcome of those books. So that's why I said yes again this time. Okay, so Jessie Arnold of Mrs. Arnold's Art Room did a book with them, and she asked me to review it. So that's what initially put me in touch with the publisher. And she started following me, the publisher. And I was doing a just kind of passion project where I was doing book puns because I love just general reading. I would notice she liked my posts a lot for that. And initially, the first thing she asked me to do was design a book cover for another one of her authors who wrote a psychology book. So that was our first project together, and we worked so well together, and we have such a similar creative mission that she asked me to do my own book. And originally I was like, I just don't know if I just feel like self-publishing is more what I like. But eventually I was like, no, you know what? This is a good chance to like really do my first adult lettering book, let what I've learned over the past decade and my like more defined style shine. So that was the basic process.
Can we talk a little bit about your experience before that? You were like, I think self-publishing is better for me, which is so refreshing to hear because we've talked to so many people who are like, well, I just want the biggest client. I just want the biggest name. I want to put that on my resume. And especially with books, which we can do like a breakdown of the pros and cons of both. But what made you feel like self-publishing was a better fit for you?
I think a lot of things. For one, I think it depends on your personality. I am extremely introverted and I am pretty self-motivated, but I do like to work on my own schedule and just, I have 3 kids. I have other things in life that it just at that point in time made the most sense. Not to mention you keep more of the income. Like with my first book and second book, even they did pretty well. You know, you get some money, but not nearly as much as you think you're going to get. So I thought, I'm going to try self-publishing. And I didn't even do like the Amazon route or anything like that. I literally just did PDF digital downloads through my Etsy and now Shopify. And I just couldn't believe how well it did. And it got things directly into the hands of my readers. And I had fun making the book. You know, if you do come from a graphic design background, you have that capability to design the book from start to finish.
The trajectory of the books you've done. The first one was the book cover?
The most recent time?
No, like the first book you ever worked on. Was that the book cover?
No, that book cover was just within the past year or so. That's with the newest publisher that I'm working with. But
Gotcha.
I did do my book cover designs kind of, you know, the first 2 times 7 years ago. But those 2 times I was writing lettering books for kids.
Okay, so let's go back to those. So 7 years ago, you wrote your first one?
Maybe 8.
Wow.
8 years, yeah.
And was that because you had kids and you wanted to like show them what you do?
No. My audience wasn't kids.
No.
And it was just the publisher that reached out to me was a kids publisher. So they wanted a kids book. And that was one of those times when I said, you know, my motto, I guess, was just say yes to everything. Anything that comes your way, say yes. And I didn't have the discernment yet to say, this doesn't fit my audience. This doesn't fit my passion. This doesn't really fit my business and brand. That said, I'm glad that I did it because you get experience and you know what you do and don't want the next time. The publisher was lovely. Like, I don't have really anything negative to say other than I felt rushed and I don't feel like they helped me get the best final outcome.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was your first book.
Correct. And second.
Okay, and your second. Where did self-publishing come in?
I think after those 2 books, I started doing it because there used to be a conference called SNAP that met in Salt Lake City. And I spoke at a conference with a couple other women on digital publishing. And I think that was like 2015. So I must have done well enough to speak on a panel. So I want to say maybe 2014-ish, I started doing it. And
what
I
were
still
those?
to this day do some digital download.
Okay. So are the like volume of the amount of work put into them like a smaller scale? Like are they shorter than the books you do with the publisher?
Yeah, I would say anywhere. It's almost more workbooks, 30 to 60 pages.
Yeah.
Max, really.
That makes sense.
But then I charge less too,
Of course. Yeah. I love what you said about how it wasn't anything wrong with your publisher. It was like you didn't know what you know now. And you said yes to everything. Like, how would you know if you like working on books unless you tried? And then it led you down this other path of, actually, I think I'm going to try workbooks, and then ultimately to where you are now, which is not a children's book.
Correct. This is my first one. I mean, it could be. There's nothing like naughty in it or anything, but it's geared towards.
It's not a naughty
Although
book.
I am intrigued by what that might look like.
Yeah.
If it were naughty.
Let's talk about that and change the rating.
In your sultry voice.
Let's talk about a naughty lettering book. Actually, this is totally random, but I know that you love to read. And I saw on your website, which I don't know when the last time you updated your website was, but it was very relevant to 2023 because you're prepping for your book to come out. And it said you've read 113 books already this year.
I just started book 121. But like I just told you before we started recording, my husband's been deployed for 6 months. So we're at nighttime, I would normally be like hanging with him and watching TV. I'm now crawling into bed at 8:00 with a book and reading 4 hours.
So what's my excuse? Because my husband is not even in the military. So he's here and I also do that. I get in bed at 8:00 and read. So
well, how many books are you at, Ilana?
Yeah.
I'm only at like 35.
Only? You have little kids. When I had little kids, I wasn't getting near as much done. Mine
That's true.
Teenagers now. They don't
right. Okay, thank you.
Me or hang out with me.
Thank you.
If I do like one book a month, I'm like, I'm a freaking genius. So.
I am the fastest reader ever.
And I listen to them too. It doesn't even count.
You're not even reading. I mean, it is reading. Like for anyone who's like, wait, audiobooks are reading. It's reading. It's great for you. There's no.
I'm imbibing.
It's just that you're not.
I'm absorbing.
You're right. You could be multitasking if you're listening to an audiobook, whereas if you're reading the words on the page.
It's like escapism, right? I feel like with reading, though, I am forced. I can't look at my phone. I can't worry about outside things.
Very
if
true.
Audio is on, I still find myself being all over the place. With a book, I lose everything.
I close my eyes.
Do you?
I zen out and
horizontal.
I'm in brain land. Yeah. It's really nice.
Can we keep talking about books for a hot sec?
Yeah, no, I was going to ask her what her genre of choice is.
That's where I was going. Yeah. Okay. Well,
this is fun. Fun. So
because
I alternate between like rom-coms and like seriously messed up psychological thrillers. And then the newest one this year is like the romantasy kind of.
Yeah, switch. I've seen that all over TikTok. Romantasy is trending. Oh, what are they called? The
Wing and
all that.
I know the other one.
Akatar
books. Yes, I have not read those, but
yeah, I haven't either. Oh, you haven't read them, and you're into the romantasy? Oh man,
it's a new genre for me. Like I just read a few like magical realism fantasy books. I would have said that was not my genre, but it's definitely growing on me.
It's worth it. It's worth a shot. I really like smut. I don't know if I would say it's smut so much as like rom-coms. Is that a genre?
She said, that's
but there's
her
like
first
open
one.
Door, fade to black, and closed door rom-coms. So if it's like
wait, what does that mean?
So an open door rom-com is explicit. It's like
dirty,
they're telling you everything. Fade to black.
That's
means,
open door.
It's insinuated, and then closed door.
Oh, I get it.
There's not much more than kissing. Like a lot less heat.
I think my books are probably somewhere in the middle. I got Kindle Unlimited. That's just what they feed me, and I'm like, okay, add to cart. It's free. Get it. It's a nice escape.
The thing is, I've never read like a relationship in a book, like a romantic relationship, and been into it. Even Harry Potter, which was like my number one favorite book, even that, the relationships in there, I was like, get past it. I don't know what, because I watch like the crappiest reality TV and I get my smut that way. And I watch like Love Island and I'm all over it. But yeah, when it comes to reading, I'm like, get out of here. Tell me more about sci-fi stuff.
I want to clarify that Harry Potter is not smut,
No, I know that. No, but I'm saying even in something that I was so invested in, like Harry Potter, I couldn't even get into the relationships in that.
I think that the relationships in the book are portrayed differently than in the movies, though, because you can like see the physical That's a tough one. But I feel
I don't know.
books,
I just always want to skip past that stuff, and I don't understand why, because that's all I watch on TV.
Well, the other day
so
I was reading. Dawn, did you watch The Office?
Only like bits and pieces. My husband did.
Okay.
It's not like super my kind of humor.
Okay, well, it's definitely mine. And the other day I was listening to one of these audiobooks on my way to the gym, and I did not know that it was not safe for work. And I just started laughing, and I was like, oh my God, I can't read this right now. I'm driving. And I just couldn't stop thinking of myself as being Phyllis when they have to like pour water on her because she's listening to 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah,
which, like,
in
I
The
realize
Office.
this podcast has gone in a very different direction than we intended, but it's really fun to talk about.
It's
So-
books.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of on topic.
It's books. We're still talking
Yeah.
about books. Okay, so
Maybe
we should circle back to books.
Well, I have a question.
No, Katie, yes, keep going.
There's writing in books. How do you feel about that? Do you feel comfortable with the writing part? And is that something that you've always been able to do, or is that a more difficult part for you? And follow-up question, are you going to write something like in your rom-com-y genre at one point? And will it cross over with lettering ?
Love this question.
So my undergrad degree is in English. And so
Well, there you
writing.
go.
I fancied myself being a poet. Like I took all these poetry writing classes in
Cool.
college, and I took like a whole class on like Frost. We did nothing but Frost poems and dissecting. So I used to write a ton. Once I graduated and started working and going to grad school and then having babies, it just kind of fell to the wayside. So I feel like I'm a little out of practice, which made my editor like the biggest godsend to kind of zhuzh up the way I wrote things. My husband and my mom ask all the time, like, you read so much, why don't you write? And I feel like I'm scared, probably is the biggest answer. When you read reviews, even, Pride and Prejudice has negative reviews. So I guess you can look at it from that kind of lens, but I'm just terrified of having people, you're really exposed because you put a little bit of yourself in a story like that, I imagine. And I don't want to see the reviews. So I don't know.
I don't read mine.
I don't know.
I don't read them. If I did, I would lose my shit. I was a hypersensitive kid. And so, yeah, if I read those, we'd have I don't read the comments. I will, like on TikTok, I'll read our comments, but on our Instagram page, I leave that to Katie and Emily because I will throw up. Yeah.
I'm not on TikTok because I don't know, the comments are so mean and I try not to look, and lucky for me, I've really worked hard to foster the kind of people who don't say mean things. I don't know if I have the bandwidth to start over again. So luckily on Instagram and Facebook, I almost never have someone leave a mean comment. So I know I should be on TikTok, but just one more thing to do,
There's no should. You're doing great on the social media platform that you've chosen. You said Pinterest was really good for you, but also we're drawing letters here and like writing, if you're writing stories or writing books, nothing we're doing is life threatening. And we got to not take it so seriously, I think. And
life threatening.
Yeah. People have said unkind things to us on our page and they're just like kind of, okay. They're not like, you're mean and I hate you. They're like, I don't like this style. And it's like, okay, you don't have to. That's fine. But I really hope that you find the courage, I guess, to write, because I bet you would write something really great and it would be really fun to see a mix of your creative, like
I think
physical.
I'd have more fun drawing the cover than I would even writing the book.
No, you'd have fun doing all of
book
it.
cover design for sure. So
maybe
I
love an interest crossover. Yeah, it's so cool when we can find ways to Venn diagram our interests. That's always a delight.
You already talked about a little bit of the pros of working with this new publisher, but can we talk about like what was so great about self-publishing? And you're still doing those workbooks. So can we talk a little bit about what you've loved about that?
I just think you're in control of everything. It's probably a pro and a con that no one kicks back anything or tells you to do it differently. Because like you guys were saying before, like that collaborative effort between the two of you makes a better end result. It's a quicker process. It's more instant gratification to your bank account. It helps your followers. I feel like with the pros and cons of each being what they are, there's no reason not to do both, because some people don't like a digital format. And then some people, with my new book that's coming out with the publisher, is of course only going to be physical because it's an art book. And there's quite a few people who are a little perturbed they can't get it like on Kindle. So I feel like if you're doing both, then you're meeting the various needs of your audience.
You said that you're pretty introverted. So I found it interesting that you liked self-publishing because in my eyes, like you're in charge of marketing. And so that's like more putting yourself out there. Did you feel like it wasn't, or just like it was so natural to talk about it because it was yours?
I feel like that's one of those things, especially when I started all this in 2011, things worked so differently and you didn't have to show your face as much. So I could rely on Pinterest and my blog. I did a lot of blogging at that time to drive traffic to my shop. And that was super, super successful for me. So I actually have been slightly less successful with sales numbers since it has become more necessary to make your face part of your brand, because I do hate being on camera. Like I don't mind having my hands on camera or being on camera for a second, but I get really flustered talking to the camera. So I try to work around that. Like my publisher just posted a video where it was like a meet the author reel, and it's on my Amazon page now. And I kind of found creative ways to be on camera without just having to sit there and talk to the camera. So I know the more I do it, the more comfortable I will become. But I feel like it's one of those things people don't really talk about because not everybody does like being on camera. And the internet makes it kind of feel like everybody is good at that. So I am not, it does not come normal to me. I'd rather be behind the scenes. I love the marketing aspect, but I don't necessarily want to be the face of it all the time. So I just kind of work around that and find ways that fit into the marketing plan that allow me to do what I need to do. And not that I'm afraid of getting a little uncomfortable, but I also feel like people maybe don't want to see my face on camera all the time. Like if I can work a little bit of my face and more of my hands and kind of the process into it, then I go that route for sure.
I think there's so many ways people can get creative and not show their face and focus on the work. And, you know, there's no right or wrong, of course, but I love hearing when people have found what works for them. And I think that goes for like selling and marketing yourself too. Just because a formula worked for someone else doesn't mean that's the right formula for you. And it feels really genuine when you just show up the way that you want to show up and you're not, well, this person did it, so I'm going to try it too. And so finding where you feel comfortable about it.
It's funny how much we have become hand models as lettering artists, though we did not expect to. There have been so many times where I'm like, oh, let me show my work. And then I look at my hands and I'm like, oh, my nails are messed up. I can't do it. Like, it's like a whole shebang. We're really putting our hands on display. But now I get manicures, so I'm so fresh and so clean.
Dawn, are you a manicure girly? Are you a painted girly? Or are you a bear?
I am. Like, if you go to my social media, you will never see, like, I have bare nails right now. I never have bare nails. But
ooh, we caught you at a moment.
To the salon in years. So I have gotten really good at doing my own nails.
Do you do a gel? Do you do a, what's your fave?
So I chip them really easily just because I'm constantly like cooking and doing dishes, but I've just kind of accepted that and I'll redo them. I do have a gel set that works pretty well. I failed at dip. It was tragic. I like the Color Street nail strips if I'm trying to be quick. And then I have this one nail concealer that looks just kind of like a milky gel that takes like 2 minutes. So if I know that I'm going to be like, I just put out an iPad calligraphy class. I planned everything after I got all the content done. Filming days, I like did my nails the special way and then really restricted my amount of cleaning I was doing around the house and that kind of stuff to make sure my nails were good for a couple days so I could knock out the filming and make sure they looked good.
Yeah, that's a funny crossover that you wouldn't think of, but like Elizabeth Gray from The Greater Good, she always does her nail content. Yeah, she has amazing nail content for anybody who hasn't seen it. It's nails and lettering, which is the crossover you didn't know you needed.
Yeah, and her nails definitely made it work. And hers are amazing. I am not that talented. It's just like a straight up color, no fancy stuff.
Well, I don't think anybody is as talented as she is with like doing it to yourself. That's crazy. She's so good.
I don't know how she has such strong natural nails. They're amazing.
But she has lots of tips and she like saves them to her stories because people ask her so many questions. Yeah. And it's really interesting because she started putting out so much of that kind of content. Now she gets sponsored work, posts and stuff like that that crosses over into the nail world, which is so interesting.
It's such a perfect crossover because all of her posts used to have her hands featured in them. So
exactly.
People asked, what is a nail concealer? You said you have a nail concealer.
They're kind of like a nail polish, but they're actually good for your nails. So they're like nourishing your nails at the same time and they're sheer. So if you do like a couple
add to cart.
Yes, I will send you a link. The one I use is by London Town. Kur is like Kur. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but they have these nail illuminating concealers and they are dreamy.
That's amazing. That's great.
We got your book content. We got your nail content.
Yeah, I love it.
I have a question, if you don't mind. So you have other income streams outside of your books. Can you talk about those and what are all the parts of your business and what's the biggest part been for you lately?
Sure. It's kind of changed over the years. We move every 1 to 3 years. And then, of course, the internet changes things. And just even the nature of blogging and Pinterest and everything has changed so much. So right now, my main things are the physical books, digital workbooks, Procreate brushes, and Procreate online classes. Passive income is my absolute favorite because it's so easy to work into our crazy lifestyle. And it allows me to have time to do other things. I feel like early in my business, I was all about that hustle. And I had 3 little kids under 3. So I don't even know how I did it all, but I was just working all the time. And if I wasn't working, I was thinking about working. And I feel like a perk of getting older is I've let a lot of that go and I can have a somewhat quiet mind again when I'm not working, which is where passive income comes in. So that's probably my favorite. I did some licensing back in the day. That's kind of waned. And I've thought about, you guys have made me think about potentially getting into it again. But I think moving forward, kind of with my kids being my oldest is about to start driving and I realize he's 2 years from college. And I'm my youngest is 6th grade. And I'm I don't have much time left with them. And I would really like to focus on being there for their activities and events and doing some of that kind of stuff. So my plan going forward is to really lean into that digital Procreate classes, namely, is what I want to just put out a ton of. I'm giving away my secret here, but what I plan to do for 2024 is do a lot of Procreate projects. So small 1-hour kind of classes that are more affordable because I see so many people putting out these huge classes that cost hundreds of dollars. And I feel like a lot of people just can't fit that in their budget right now. So I'm going to try something different that I haven't seen a lot of people do. I don't know how it's going to work out yet, but that's
really interesting. I think also we've been talking to a lot of our students in our programs, kind of seeing what they need and how we need to adjust our programming moving forward. And one of the things that we're hearing all the time is not just the financial side, but the time side. Everybody is just really struggling to find the time to do things. And that's why a lot of these classes that are really comprehensive and amazing are so cool and people buy them with every intention to take them, but then they sit in an email folder unclicked for a year. And it's so sad that it's such a cool comprehensive course and you never really get to dive into it. But I think, just the nature of the content that we consume is changing. And then the nature of how we learn and our education is changing as well. And so I think that's very astute of you to be kind of tweaking your courses to match that. I'll be interested to hear how that goes.
Yeah, I'll definitely keep you posted. I remember, I don't know, it's been maybe 5 years, maybe a little longer. Brit & Co. is still a website and they mostly do news and media now. But when they first started, she did a lot of 1-hour classes and they had asked me at one point, but I had to travel to California and I just couldn't make it work. So a couple people I know did classes for them and I've taken classes through them and they're always just 1-hour classes, maybe around $30. When I buy classes like that, I always finish them, usually fairly immediately. But when I buy those classes that are 9 hours worth of content, I end up just never doing them and I spent a couple $100.
So true.
Hopefully it will go well. But again, something for everyone, right? So I'm going to try to do a mix of both. My classes that are out now are all 2 to 3 hours, 3.5. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to really try to keep these to an hour. And the price will reflect that, of course.
Something that Katie once said, which I think you've done a really, really great job of. And I think, Katie, you heard this somewhere. I can't remember the source, but people often talk about niching down and they're you just need to focus in on just one thing. But actually, I think they've gotten it wrong. And Katie said to me, you need to niche out instead of down. So I can see how you've done that because you're drawing these passion projects, you're creating things, and then you're seeing people want to learn how to do that. So then you create an income stream that's, how did I make this thing that you liked? And then it's, let me make a book showing you how I drew those things. Then it's a workbook of how I made those things. And so I think that people get really confused. They're well, if I want to get really good at something, I need to just do the one thing. But actually, you need to do that one thing in 10 different ways. Approach it from, I could have a product shop in that style. I could have a course that tells you how to build a product shop. I could have a course that tells you how to draw that in this style. There's so many ways to go about it. And I think you've done such a good job of keeping that voice consistent through all of the different income streams you have. I'm not totally sure how you manage all of those and how you balance the parenting while your husband's deployed and all the things that you're doing just as a creative and avoiding burnout. Do you have any tips or productivity tools that have really helped you to stay afloat?
I do. I will say first, thank you so much for that. I don't know if I always feel that way. So that really makes my heart happy to hear, because you always wonder if you're doing things right or you're doing enough, or if your income goes down. Like, everybody hates what I'm doing. So thank you for that.
I know the feeling.
I do think two things that have really helped me over the years. One of my best friends is a blogger, and she's a food blogger, and we think totally different ways. So having someone you can bounce ideas off of that's kind of in the same field, but in a totally different area, has been really helpful to me. And one of the things early on that really helped me was Danielle Laporte said, make generosity part of your growth strategy. And I think I took this to the extreme in the beginning, and I did too much for free, and that's why people weren't buying things. So you have to find that balance. But I do think when you're generous, it leads people to trust you and rely on you. And then they want to support you for the things that you sell because you are generous with sharing your knowledge or what have you. And then the other thing I think that has been paramount to my business, especially in times when we're like moving and I can't be working as much, is early on, someone told me, focus on growing your email list because it's the only thing you own. If Instagram took down your account tomorrow and that's the only thing you have, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Email is something you own. They can't take it away from you. You're getting right into people's inboxes, and you don't have to worry about algorithms. Sure, everybody doesn't open your email, but if you put enough value into that email that people want to open it, you'll have a good open rate. And it's just been a huge game changer, I think. And it's something I still put a lot of time and effort to, even more so than any social media.
Could you share maybe a strategy or two that you used for list building, just so we can give people like a tangible example?
Yeah. So I actually, and I'm going to tell you who I use because they're so fabulous. I was with MailChimp for probably 7 years, and they were really expensive, but I loved how my emails were easy to make pretty. But it got to a point where I was spending like $300 a month on email, and that's just really kind of crazy, especially if people aren't opening certain things. So I moved to Flowdesk. It's so user-friendly. It's like drag and drop, easy to make beautiful, and so affordable. And it's like unlimited subscribers. With MailChimp, it was tiered. So every time I got more subscribers, which was a yay, it was also like a con because it's like another couple $100s. So
you're like mixed feelings.
Right? So what I just did recently is I put out a free, and this was literally just like last week, I put out a free Procreate brush set. And if they sign up, they get that free brush set. And then I put together a series of 4 welcome emails, and just kind of to introduce them to me, what I do, how I got started in this field, and then also where they can get started with the best free and paid content on my site and shop. So that actually has been really successful in just the past week. So I've always had some kind of valuable freebie that gets them there, but getting them there isn't enough because we get so many emails. It's easy for people to like get that freebie and unsubscribe. So I have to put a lot of thought and effort into what am I going to keep giving them each month that they want to keep coming back and opening my email. So I spend a lot of time on that and just tweaking it and constantly changing it. There's been seasons in my business where I did weekly emails. I'm kind of back to a monthly one unless I have special news, just because we all do get too many emails and I'm not producing as much content as I was at one point. So I feel like that's flexible, but I do a mix of free and paid content. Back to what Ilana was saying about not being comfortable being on camera. I'm more of a like soft sell person. So this also allows me to do that kind of soft sell. Like, here's what I'm going to give you for free, but if you want to know more, here is what you can buy. And it's completely optional. It doesn't make or break what they're learning. But if they want to delve deeper, they have that option. And that just feels more comfortable to my personality and kind of style of selling.
Love that you've found what works for you. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like your funnel and your lead in are really genuine to your brand too. It makes total sense for what you're doing because it leads them to trust you and then to come back for those paid products. Because if they trust you with your free products, imagine the value if there's a paid product. So I love that. And I love the leading with generosity.
You guys are good I noticed you guys have like segments, and those are one of those things everybody's like, segment your list. And that just makes my brain hurt. So truth be told, I've never segmented my list, but I feel like I'm pretty niche down to a point. I don't necessarily have to, but I feel like if you have the mind where you can do that, it definitely makes things even better. That's something I'm not very good at and need to work on, but it just goes to show that kind of like we've been talking about, there's a lot of different ways to get somewhere. You don't have to do one certain thing to publish a book or write a book or grow your business. There's lots of different successful ways to do things.
Absolutely.
I love it. I have a couple of wrap-up questions. I'm just testing my eyeballs real quick.
I studied for this, you guys. I took your questions because I don't like to do things on the fly. So I wrote down all my answers and plan things.
All right.
And I told
you know
Ilana
what?
I'm a podcast virgin. So I was like, I don't know what I'm doing really.
Oh, well, you're doing great. I would never know you're a virgin.
Which answers did you write down? Tell us. I won't even ask them to.
You don't
Pick
want to
your
know.
favorites.
It'll take too long. I answered every question you put.
Oh my God, you're
possible.
literally the cutest. Wait,
I did my
love you so
homework,
much.
y'all.
I love it. Okay, you probably did this one. How do you like your pizza?
Oh, thin crust, gluten-free, and like sweet and salty. There's a place by us that does this one called the Porky Fig, and it's prosciutto and fig jam and gorgonzola, and it's like, so
Hells
good.
to the yeah.
Katie, your was so so good. I am also gluten-free, and finding gluten-free pizza that actually doesn't taste like garbage is a challenge.
Oh, come see me. We got a place here that is beyond stellar.
I'll be literally right there. Ooh, well, these are so hard. What are 2 non-design things you're really obsessed with right now?
One is the fabulous makeup and hair tutorials that Instagram and TikTok give us because they're helping me try things like I've never, like I'm doing winged eyeliner now. I'm wearing lipstick for the first time in my life. Like just loving the tips for not just aging gracefully, but like doing things. I don't normally wear makeup on a day-to-day basis, but I find those really fun. And I actually save more things than I actually try. And then the other thing is golfing. Yeah. I started golfing this year.
That's fun.
I'm actually like loving it.
You know what?
Wow.
I went to a golf, swim, tennis camp for like a week once. And
That's a thing?
Yeah.
Golf, swim, and tennis all together.
It was like a kids' day camp. I don't know. And my sister and I went together. It was fun. We were young, like 8 or 10 maybe. And I played field hockey for a little bit. So I like the idea, but I really like the golf outfits. I feel like
same. That was the main reason I told my husband yes. But now I was like, wait, this is way more fun. Yeah. But when he first kept asking me, I was like, I mean, I don't
sounds kind of boring.
At home, you want me to come with you to the golf course and hone in on your guy time? So I kept saying no. Then I finally said yes. And now it's like our thing that we do together and it's super fun.
I feel like I could give it another shot, but I do like the skorts. That's just practical, you know?
There's no way I do not have the coordination. I've tried Topgolf and some golfing ranges with my dad when I was little. And oh man, I hit the ball 2% of the time. I mean, I have little to no spatial awareness, but I love a lady who golfs. So way to go.
Yeah.
I'm not athletic though, so it's amazing that it's going well-ish.
Well, apparently you are. If you can hit a ball and not miss a ball, that's somewhat athletic,
true,
I think.
Yes. I can hit the ball most of the time. It doesn't always go where I want it to go, but that's golfing in a nutshell.
That's more than I can do, so way to go, gal.
I can order the cute outfit and
And
I don't know, Katie, you're good at
golf cart.
You're good at math, so you can keep score.
I'm not necessarily good at complex math.
The other day,
I don't keep score while I play. Really, I just want to.
You really shouldn't. I don't even know.
At least now, I've only been doing it a year. Like later, I'll. But to make it more fun, I don't worry too much about my score. I just need to say real quick that there was this 4th grader who I ran into at an event, and it was at someone's house. It was their daughter, and she came down. There's like over 30-year-olds. And she was like, is anyone a math teacher? And we were all like, nope, wrong crowd, honey. And she was like, I don't understand this. And she brought over her math homework and it was genuinely a foreign language. It was like long division, but with like 8 symbols added. And everyone in the room was like, I've never seen this before in my life.
Maybe it was
so
like
funny.
Some weird way that the teacher was just teaching it.
But we were all like,
sometimes they have
just Google it. We literally told her all to put, we all told her to none of us knew what it was. It was
that reminds me of another Office reference where Michael's helping that kid at the small paper company with their homework. And they're like, what's this little 2? And he's like, just don't worry about that. And he tells her the answer. And the mom's like, don't put that. Yeah. My husband and I, that's like one of our most used references in daily life. Don't put that.
Yeah, don't do that. Okay, let's just do a quick shout out. Your book is coming out at the end of January?
January 28th.
Okay, well, go buy that. And we'll put a link to it in the show notes. And then where can people find you?
Wait, what's it called? Did we even say the name of it?
No, we didn't. It's called The Art of Playful Lettering.
You can see it. I can see it behind her. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, you can. I can't because
I can't
see it.
And then where can people connect with you, find you, follow you, subscribe to your email newsletter, all the things?
I'm at by Dawn Nicole everywhere. My URL. Great. I'm not on a ton of social anymore, just Instagram, basically. Facebook too, but I'm more active on Instagram.
We love it. We love a simple
easy.
Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Simple
KISS.
golfing queen.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. We can't wait to have your book in our hands. We're so proud of you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Yay. All right. All good things.